Hey everyone, it's Pastor Brennan Davis, your missions pastor here at Calvary Chapel, Las Vegas again, and welcome to Missions Monday. So this Missions Monday, I'm so excited because we have been moving towards including some missions and missionary opportunities in closed countries with people that we call unreached, or people that are further away from the gospel. And finally, we've arranged something. I have a good friend, we'll call him B for just safety and protection. You'll find them on our missions website as the B family to support them. But he's on today. He's got some awesome facts to share with us about what it's like to minister in those countries where it's closed off, where you have to be discreet with what you say for safety. So without further ado, I'm going to give him the opportunity to share. And here we go. All right. Take it away, sir.
All right, Brennan, thanks so much. You guys are an awesome church, has been supporting us for quite some time, and really just given the opportunity to share a glimpse of what our world is like. And there's a lot of mission activity around the world, and there's a lot of lost and needs. But want to share that primarily we focus on what's called the unreached or the unengaged of the world. And this really shapes the way we do it in the way that we do it, that I'll explain what that is. But the unreached is where there is 2% or less of a population or a people group that would be followers of Christ. Pretty crazy to think about. So a people group share the same language, share the same culture, living in particularly one country of the world where less than 2% of that people group would know Christ. And there are people in this world who would have 0%, where we would say that they're unengaged. There's no one strategically working among these people to share the gospel of Christ with them. So these are the people groups that we focus on. And it's crazy to think about, but almost half of the countries worldwide restrict missionary involvement, either by law or by the society itself, Islamic society, or even you're seeing as a Hindu or Buddhist society. And these are the people groups where we recognize we can't go in and say, hi, I'm a missionary and I want to be able to share the gospel with you. So that shapes some of the way in which we go about reaching these people. Just to give you a big picture of the organization that I work with, it's a very large organization. We have over 3,200 missionaries globally around the world. But one of the things I want to really focus in on for you guys is noticing that from our organization, there's 16 global gateways, which means there are people all around the world from other nations that are being sent out to these unreached and unengaged areas of the world. So really, it's awesome to see that the nations are reaching the nations, and it's not just the West who are going out to reach other places. We're in about 103 countries, which is just a little over half of the countries in the world. Again, we're focused in on those really difficult places to be in. So in terms of how do we get into a country where, one, we might not be able to legally be there as a missionary, or how do we actually reach a society that doesn't know Jesus and doesn't really want us to be there sharing the gospel? And one strategic way is going in as through the workplace or the marketplace, either taking a job or starting a business. And for our organization, I am one of 2 full-time people in all of our organization in 16 global gateways that focuses on resourcing and equipping missionaries in the workplace and in business. So what really is our marketplace ministries and where I focus my time on? It's these 2 categories. The larger umbrella is that marketplace ministries. And on one side, we have people who take jobs, either part-time jobs or even full-time paying jobs, probably our three top industries right now, where people can find jobs overseas, especially as Americans, would be engineers, education, and then medical. On the other hand, we spend quite a bit of time helping people navigate through starting and operating their own business. We have multiple categories and they're all over the place. Sometimes we get questions like, what kind of businesses do missionaries, start and operate? Well, it varies based upon their experience and their education and their skills, also the needs of the people group that they're working with. So we have all sorts of things like tourism, agriculture, some handicrafts, called consulting, even restaurant. So it's pretty amazing to be able to be a part of that creativity around the world. The thing I really want to focus in on is, why would a organization like ours that works among the unreached to share the gospel, to make disciples and plant churches, why would we even be involved in taking a job or being in business? It's not just a strategy for us to be able to get into the country to share the gospel. It's to live among the people and to have a biblical example. And these are 6 things that we believe that the workplace or the marketplace provides our missionaries. One is identity. If you're going into an area where nobody really knows about Jesus and nobody really has ever met a believer, follower of Christ before, it's sort of strange. Why would you be there? And either you're a missionary that they don't want, or you're a spy, and that's even worse. So why are you there? Who's your identity? Well, if you say, "Hey, I run this business," or "I'm an educator," or I'm a doctor," that makes sense to them, and that answers that identity question of, why are you even here? We can think about that even in our own culture. If all of a sudden somebody moved into our neighborhood and they don't seem to be working anytime, and we don't see them doing anything, we'd sort of wonder, why are you here and what do you do? But through the workplace and the marketplace, it also provides not just an identity of who you are, but access to people in a very genuine and natural way, right? Most people are spending a majority of their time working or looking for a job in order so then they can be working. And so it just makes sense. You can connect with a lot of different people in a genuine and natural way, not just those that you would work with, but also then your neighbors. If you have kids and they go to school, and their parents, you just become part of the society. Leading from access to people in a genuine way, then it narrows down to provides relationships. And this is where we really see that, disciple making and planting churches, especially in an unreached and unengaged area, takes a really, really long time. And they're going to be skeptical. They're going to be trying to figure out why you're there, what you're doing, and what's your intent, right? And so getting past that initial stage and building relationships leads towards discipleship, not just evangelism and sharing the gospel, but whole life discipleship. And this even happens before conversion too, right? When you're able to share scripture and biblical content with them, and you're digging deep in all aspects of their lives. The third thing that we see that the workplace and marketplace offers is blessings. Now we know the Apostle Paul says in Corinthians that the gospel is a blessing. It obviously is, but through the blessing of the gospel, and as kingdom values begin to shape someone's lives, and then a small groups of people's lives, it shapes the society in which now they live among. And so, as we know, the kingdom of God would be ushered in through us here on earth. We shape all aspects of society in our workplace and in the marketplace. And so we really see that we want to provide the amazing grace as the blessing, but also common grace, because we are part of God's kingdom. Fifthly is that we become an example to local believers what it really means to be a follower of Christ at your job. Again, these are places where they may only be one or two or a handful of believers in their entire area, and they don't know, what does this look like? How am I supposed to act? And if the example from us that we give to them is like, hey, not just what a believer looks like, but we're like a missionary and we're supported from the West. And you know, if you go into a society and you're, man, this guy has all the money he needs. He's got a really nice house. He drives a nice car. He's able to travel. Whatever he's got going on, I want in. And you share the gospel with him. It's like, yeah, great, right? But then they're removed from their own culture. So we believe being involved in the workplace and marketplace shows local believers the example of how to be involved in their society and not being separate from who they really are. The last thing, and it's not definitely not the last, it's probably definitely the first, is that we want the workplace and the marketplace and the view of that to be God focused, in that, in as Colossians 3:23 says, that in all that we do it unto the Lord. And so our view, even as missionaries, our view of our workplace and our marketplace really does matter. And if we view it as, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, the end goal is just sharing the gospel, then you're not able to really worship the Lord in all that you're doing. And this really hit me hard, probably a year or two ago, in this idea that as missionaries, if we don't understand how we approach work and business, we indirectly might be saying, well, I worship the Lord in 80% of my life. Well, none of us want to say that. We all are striving towards 100% worship of God in our lives. And so it really does matter how we view work in the marketplace, in our own lives as even missionaries. So that's what I really just want to focus in on. There's some amazing things happening around the world because people are being a part of a society. It gives a lot of dignity towards the local people. It helps us to view the ones that we're sharing the gospel with not as a project, but really as companions, co-laborers together, that they also can reach their own people. I could say probably, if there's a country on your mind and you're wondering, I wonder if these people are in it, I could say we're there. Not all of them, because it's a challenging world environment in a lot of places. But for even those that we're not yet in, the strategy of how do we get there, business is definitely on the forefront of that opportunity. So thanks for listening and sharing and for supporting us and thinking through these ideas. And I'll just open it up to questions that Brendan, you may have, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so that was great. Thank you so much, B. And so then a question would be, so what you're saying is that running a business or doing marketplace missions is not necessarily just to get into a country. There's more to it than it's like a long-term strategy, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a strategic move for sure, but it's also holistic living, right? I think God calls all of us as disciples of Him, that we are called and part of God's society, and God, the way that God makes all of us are different, and I think for us to be very careful on saying, well, those who are in missions or those who are in ministry are quote unquote called, and everybody else is, just sort of wasting their time here on earth. Well, that's not true at all, right? And so if we can change our mindset and recognize that God actually endorses and created work, and we are through it to worship Him, that it doesn't become a means to an end of like, oh yeah, I know I need to share, the gospel with people. That is definitely true. But how might we worship the Lord in all that we do at our work? And yeah, so it is strategy, but it is very much of a holistic living out here on earth.
Very,
Brandon, I thought about this one time. I remember listening to a guy recently who talked about, as in a large church in Florida, and he was explaining how one time he went to India on a short-term trip, and he went in with a teaching English. And he explained, he was like, hey, we were there, we're supposed to be teaching English, but we were really only, you know, teaching people Bible verses, and the material we used was the Bible. And people were like clapping, like, haha, you got them. And I just felt to myself, wow, like we would feel really offended if somebody tried to dupe us like that, or, bait and switch scenario. And I just don't believe that that's completely what God is asking us to do.
hmm. Yeah. So also, what I was thinking while you were sharing, B, is that marketplace missions could also give you a sense of buy-in, right? Like you're buying into economy by, sorry, you're starting a business, and it really, I can imagine it gives you like a common heart with the people that you're ministering to, of like, your day to day rests on the same economic factors and stuff that they kind of rest on, right?
Hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You
Yeah, and
know,
yeah.
well, I'm going to say that, if you're familiar with Gallup poll, that they do a lot of different research on the workplace and engagement. They wrote the Strength Finders, so a lot of people are familiar with them. Um, they did search all around the world globally, millions of people, and the number one thing that everybody was wanting was a good paying job.
Mm,
And for us, when we lived overseas and in a job and environment where there was a revolution and the economy crashed in certain areas, there were like over 50% of unemployment.
wow.
After a long period of time, and there's research even here in the United States that shows if people go a long period of time without a job, especially men, they lose something, and they've identified themselves what they feel like they've lost, and that is dignity. That's
Wow.
what they express, dignity. Now, dignity is a a, a divine or God-given value. That's pretty amazing, where work is how God designed us, right? And so, yeah, you're right. If we can walk alongside them and feel the same pains that they do, and give them jobs and give them capacity into building, an influential aspect of their own society, it really speaks wonders.
That's so cool. So, B, without giving, I mean, too much information, obviously, what can we be praying for right now in this area and for you guys as a family?
Yeah, appreciate that, Brennan. I would say, pray for us, everybody, specifically for marketplace. Pray that um, in our current pandemic globally, that people who really are desperate. I mean, we come across people who say, people overseas in economic strict environments. They say, I I would be more apt um, to get the coronavirus than to starve to death. And it's like,
Mm,
wow, that's a perspective I've just never thought about, right? So pray for our workers who do run businesses and who do have local employees, that they can sustain those businesses, so those people can have, a paycheck, and they can continue to put food on their tables. And usually those families, have extended reach. It's not just providing one household income; it's providing multiple connections. So pray for that. Pray also that once COVID sort of clears up, that God would continue to call more laborers into his harvest, and primarily even those that I think, who have been in the workplace, who professionally have a skill, and maybe feel God tugging at their heart to take that skill and go overseas and to just walk alongside people and share the gospel, because it's no longer about, oh, I got to leave my job and quote unquote be a missionary. It's take your job and go be a missionary.
Man, I love that. Thank you so much, B. And that was awesome. So maybe you're wondering, how can I support what God's doing through this precious family and this ministry? Well, as I said, and as it says down there below, if you go to our missions page at cclasvegas.org/missions, you can find them as the B family. And that's to give, to bless them as they continue to bless the world. And also, if you're interested, maybe you feel called to pray about being a part of missions in closed countries or marketplace missions. Please message me and let me know. Let me know that that's your heart. And you can direct message me. Obviously, we have to be careful. So I can't pass you any of his information, but maybe we can start a dialogue about just going that route. And who knows what God can do. But we do know that God's heart is for us to go and make disciples of all nations. And that looks differently from one nation to another, right? Some are closed, some are more open, some are given towards a lot marketplace ministries heavily, some more it's a little more free to do, be a full-time missionary, so to speak. So let me know what your questions are and your thoughts. Please be praying for B and his family, and also for the closed countries and the unreached peoples of the world. God bless you guys. Love you. Have a great week.